What's up guys? In today's video, I will show you top 5 best camera for photography. Number 1. Canon EOS R6. The Canon EOS R6 full-frame mirrorless camera offers incredible autofocus, leading image stabilization, and excellent low-light abilities. It's not cheap and its video skills fall short of the very best. But as an enthusiast stills fall short of the very best. But as an enthusiast stills camera, it's easy to. It took Canon a while to find its feet with mirrorless cameras, but the Canon EOS R6 is proof that those faltering days are well and truly over. A quick look at its spec list shows it's capable of going head to head with the best mirrorless cameras from Sony, Nikon, and Fujifilm, and indeed beating them in some regards. How so? Well, it's a 20.1 megapixel full-frame camera that comes with class, leading image stabilization, a 6072 point dual pixel autofocus system, 12's burst shooting, fork video, and high-resolution electronic viewfinder. When it comes to controls, there are certainly plenty of options. 16 buttons plus 3 control dials, a mode selector, off switch, and a joystick. And of course, you get touch controls too. Add to that the fact that all RF lenses have an extra control dial on the lens itself, and you have plenty of ways to control the camera. That doesn't necessarily mean you'll always know what you're doing though. In theory, the 3 control dials give you control over your main shooting options, but because they aren't labeled and can be customized to your heart's content, you'll need to spend some time with the R6 before it all becomes second nature. Autofocus is handled by an incredibly adept dual pixel CMO SASFII system, which offers a scarcely believable 1053 AF zones and 6072 AF points. But don't worry too much about the numbers because all you really need to know is that it works superbly. Number 2. Fujifilm X-H2. The Fujifilm X-H2 is a high-end 40 megapixel APS-C mirrorless camera for both stills and video shooting. Its high-resolution stills and 8 video capabilities stand in contrast to the high-speed shooting and fast readout fork capabilities of its X-H2S sister model. The biggest new feature of the X-H2 is its use of a new 40 megapixel BSICMO SICMOS sensor, the highest resolution chip of its size we've seen in an APS-C consumer camera. A BSI sensor doesn't offer the significant speed benefits of the stacked CMOS chip in the X-H2S, but is able to deliver slightly lower read noise, while also allowing the camera to be less expensive. If 8E is more than you're looking for, the camera offers a 6 TWIC mode that also appears to be oversampled and derived from the 8 output. Interestingly, the 6-point TWIC footage is in the 16:9 aspect ratio, commonly used in video, unlike the similarly named mode in the X-H2S that produces the taller 3:2 photo-shaped output. We have to assume that the change is to provide a degree of flexibility for cropping or post-shot detail processing without the file sizes of shooting in HE. Fujifilm already has a pixel shift high-resolution mode in its GFX medium format cameras, but this is its first appearance in a camera with an X-Trans color filter pattern. The less frequent repeat pattern means that the camera has to take 20 images to get a single pixel sensor movement between each one, but the end result is a set of files that can be combined into a 160 image using the downloadable Pixel Shift Combiner software. The body of the X-H2 is identical to that of the X-H2S, with the exception of the model name ANSI's badge on the front of the high-speed model. As befits a body that's likely to make sense for landscape work, it's one of the best sealed bodies Fujifilm has yet made. Battery life. It offers a fairly substantial 16 capacity and powers the camera to a SEPA battery rating of 680 shots per charge using the rear LCD. This is a very impressive number and suggests the camera is less power hungry than the X. 2 SUs. A rating this high means that only the most demanding of shoots, such as a wedding, are likely to challenge the capacity of the battery, since it's common to achieve more than twice the rated number of shots, depending on how you shoot. Number 3. Nikon Z6II. The Nikon Z6II is an updated version of the company's 24-megapixel multimedia full-frame mirrorless camera. It gains more processing power to add improved autofocus and a few other tweaks to an already well-rounded feature set. The ZIX II is a subtle refresh of the existing ZIX, extending the capabilities a little, but offering a mostly similar, well-rounded stills and video feature set. In terms of hardware, the main difference is that the Mark II gains a second X-Speed 6 processor, with most of the performance and feature improvements stemming from this additional processing power. Nikon says the autofocus performance has been incrementally improved over the original ZIX, but the most notable feature change is the addition of face and eye detection, both human and animal, to the wide area of mode. Previously, these features were only available in auto area AF, meaning the camera decided where to focus. By adding them to wide area, you are able to narrow down the region in which that camera hunts for faces, giving you a way of pre-selecting the face you wish to focus on. The ZIX IE's maximum burst speed tops out at an impressive 14 frames per second, but only if you use a single AF point and you're willing to shoot JPEGs or take the slight dynamic range hit of shooting 12-bit RAWs. If you want the camera to choose an off point or track a subject, it shoots at a still very respectable 12 frames per second. The ZIX II builds on the ZIX's already pretty strong video feature set with the promise of Ultra Heat Fork 6 type. The ZIX II comes with the latest ENEL15's battery. It's a 20 higher capacity version of the 15B that came with the previous model. The camera is compatible with earlier ENEL15 batteries, but will perform much better with the more recent versions. Whose charging is only available with the Type B and C units. The camera is rated as delivering 410 shots per charge if you use the rear LC and 340 shots per charge if you use the viewfinder. Number 4. Olympus System OM1. The OM System OM1 is the first high-end Micro Four Thirds mirrorless camera from OM Digital Solutions, the company that bought the Olympus camera business. It's a rugged image, stabilized 20-megapixel camera, capable of high-speed shooting and offering a range of computational photography modes. The OM1 is built around a completely new 20-beam stacked CMOS image sensor. Stacked sensors are the next generation of technology beyond BSI designs, combining layers of semiconductor to allow more complex designs and faster readout. The sensor has 20 million microlenses and a Bayer array with 20 million color patches. But there are 4 photodiodes behind each of these, which are combined to form each pixel. These sub-pixels can be read out individually, giving the camera 4 fractionally different perspectives on the world. These are compared to derive depth information about the scene, giving phase difference autofocus in an X-shaped pattern. The camera's faster sensor and processor allow it to shoot blackout free at up to 50 frames per second with full autofocus and auto exposure, including the option to capture RAW files. If you can live with locking AF and A at the first exposure, the OM1 will shoot at up to 120 frames per second. In terms of video, the OM1 gains the ability to shoot fork, either in Ultra or DC ratio. At up to 6 type, it can shoot for up to 90 minutes on a single battery before the battery is exhausted, and for over 2 hours when using an external power source without overheating concerns. The OM1 has a body with a rather more substantial grip than the previous generation, but its control layout is otherwise pretty similar. The OM1 is a smaller camera than some photos make it look, and each of the individual control points is pretty small. Personally, I found they were all big enough to operate, but some people with larger fingers may find that the balance between the size and the number of controls on such a small body doesn't work for them. The OM1 is powered by a new BLX1 battery. It's a 17 unit that powers the camera to a battery life rating of 520 shots per charge. Using the rear screen, no number is given for the viewfinder. As always, these numbers are likely to be a lot lower than the number of shots you're likely to get, but they tend to be useful for comparison between cameras. Number 5. Sony A7 IV. The Sony A7 IV is the best hybrid mirrorless camera you can buy right now. A truly modern all-rounder, that largely justifies its price tag. It packs class, leading autofocus, impressive image quality, and powerful video features into one versatile body. Dedicated street or sports photographers should look elsewhere. And it isn't the fastest shooter in its class. But for everyone else, the A-Zen 4 is a rock, solid all-rounder with few glaring weaknesses. It might be the only camera you ever need. At the heart of the A7 IV is a new 33-megapixel BSIC EMO, SCEM OS sensor. This represents a move away from the 24-megapixel chip used by the A7 III and its immediate Panasonic and Nikon rivals. Given that BSI sensors are already widely used in the current generation of cameras, we're not expecting huge leaps forward in image quality. A slight uptick in detail and comparable low-light performance is the most likely thing we can expect in terms of image quality. In terms of autofocus, the improvements over the A7 III should be fairly significant. Not so much because of the promise to focus in conditions that are one stop darker, but because that camera was one of the last Sonys that didn't integrate IAF into its main AF system and relied on a much more primitive AV tracking system. The A7 III could detect human eyes, but it couldn't seamlessly and dependably switch between eye, face, and body tracking if you set the camera to focus on a person. The A7 IV moves things forward considerably, adding 10-bit capture to increase the processing flexibility of log footage and to allow full hybrid log gamma, HELG, capture for playback on HDR TVs. It also gains the ability to shoot Fork 6 type for action capture or slow mo work, but this requires a crop to a PS Super 35 dimensions. This footage comes from a 4.6 region. There are also options to use H265 compression, XAVCHS, and apply the Cinetone color profile. The A7 IV uses the same NPFZ 100 battery as the A7 IV and other more recent Sony cameras. It's a usefully hefty unit that, combined with the relatively modest viewfinder Reese, lets the A7 IV achieve a CIPA battery life rating of 580 shots per charge, using the rear screen and 520 shots per charge using the EVF.